Okay, here we are for the next segment of the leaders of Napa Valley that are sharing their favorite building site and or location in town. And I'm happy to introduce to you Liz Alessio, also City Council member of District Number
1.
Yes,
I don't
absolutely.
leave that out.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, I'll let her tell you what her other titles are and why we are standing in this beautiful building.
So, and I also have the honor and privilege of being the board president for the Napa County Historical Society. It was very easy for me to decide amongst all the many beautiful historic areas within the city of Napa, not to mention the county of Napa, the Goodman Library. The Goodman Library was built in 1901, and it was built by George Goodman. He was a local banker, businessman, philanthropist, and not only did he have it built, but he donated the land and the funds to have it built, which was $15,000 at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
Because it's not a huge plot of land here.
It's not at all. So back in the 1890s, cities throughout California were trying to distinguish themselves away from the frontier land into really cultural municipalities. And so they were building libraries. You know, you might be familiar with like the Carnegie Library. And some people ask if this is a Carnegie Library, and it's not, but it's just as beautiful. So in 1890s, the city of Napa went to George Goodman and asked if he would donate the land, which he did, and as I already shared, he then also paid for the building. And he hired a local architect who was actually well known, not just in the city of Napa, but the Bay Area, named Luther Turton. At that time, the Richardsonian Romanesque style was very well known for other churches, for instance, like the Methodist Church on Randolph Street here in Napa, but really distinguished buildings. And so that's the style of the building on the outside, using local rock from the Napa quarry, and then also local grout. So everything was here local in terms of the outside.
And even then, supporting local was a thing.
And
it's a big thing in our community. We really, probably more than most communities, I think
really we really come
local.
together.
Yeah.
We really do. As a matter of fact, it's a good segue. When the building was open, or not open yet, in 1901, the cornerstone dedication, which again is on the outside, hopefully we can look at this. There was a dedication of this building as the cornerstone was being raised on the northeast side. 1,000 people, anybody who is anybody plus, came to this location for this dedication. The schools closed early, the church bells rang. You can imagine, cool. There's a picture up on the stairwell that you could see everybody in their finest wear and the horse and carriage. And on a personal note, my family arrived in this area in the 1870s. My great-great-grandfather was a county supervisor. So he was certainly here on this property with everybody else for this special dedication.
Might have just missed his picture being, included, maybe.
I don't know.
He was probably there that day?
Absolutely, he was there. There's a picture up on the stairwell. You'll see it's a picture spanning back with, I don't know if you can see all 1,000 people, but you could see the crowd of people and all their finest wear. So I'm sure he was here.
Oh, that's really
no doubt,
cool.
I'm sure he was here. So going back, as a matter of fact, I'm going to change real quick. So we already shared the importance of having a library, but this was more than a library, it was a community center.
Okay.
And this room, which is now the gift shop for the Napa County Historical Society, if you look up, it says tea room, was the tea room for the ladies. Behind us, which is now the exhibit hall, dedicated to Jess Dowd Memorial Room, was a billiards room for the men. So if you imagine in 1901,
Right.
library / community center, tea room for the ladies, billiards and I'm sure booze for the men, and upstairs
And smoking.
Absolutely. And upstairs was the library, as it is now. And as I mentioned prior, the Goodman Library is the longest standing continuous library in the state of California.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So nice, thank you.
And then up as we were just looking at God and my mother. So George Goodman, dedicated the land and the funds, and all he wanted was a sign, this sign up here that said God and my mother. So that's George Goodman.
The stipulation.
That's his stipulation.
Nope, not
That's
going to
what
budge on that.
Exactly. Now, after George passed away, he worked it out with his estate that the library, that the Goodman building, would stay with the city of Napa as long as it was always open and free to the public, and that it was always a library. And wasn't that clever and smart of George?
Yeah.
Very clever, very smart.
So, in the unlikely event that the city decided, okay, it's not going to be that anymore, then what would happen? Who does it go to?
What would happen to it? So if we think about the 1970s and the redevelopment of 1970s all over California, and certainly in Napa, this library could have been at risk. We lost a lot of the historic buildings, but we saved a lot too compared to other towns.
Right.
So in the 1970s, Jess Dowd, who was the executive director for the Historical Society at that time, worked with the family heirs to have this be the next home for the Napa County Historical Society, because we have a non-circulating research library upstairs, and we needed a space for the library.
It seems like a perfect partnership.
It was a perfect partnership. The Historical Society didn't have a place or a home to occupy, and we had all these archives. By the way, the Historical Society started in 1948 by local community members who just really wanted to preserve the special history in Napa County. And so we've been doing that ever since. So the family agreed. So in '76, the Historical Society made this their home, and we made the library a research library. Now, in the 70s, a couple things were going on. Well, prior to that, this was this library, the tea room changed, okay? The tea room changed, the billiards changed. I'm going now before the Historical Society, moving back in time just a little bit, because for me personally, it was mine, and for many, many children in the city of Napa, I get choked up. It was our city library. It was so fun. You just come here, it was this warm, welcoming place. There were so many great books. It was just a magical place for kids. With the short tables and the chairs, and again, just the wonders of books that were throughout this library. There was actually, they separated the children's library. This was strictly a children's library for a long time. And they had built a different library for the non-children in the community. So there's really some wonderful memories attached to this, along with the bookmobile that would come to neighborhood with the books from this library. If you couldn't get down here, they would get to you. But I do want you to come in. We're open and free to the public, even though.
And there's various exhibits that rotate.
Yes, thank you.
Why don't we cover that?
As a matter of fact, we just opened up our latest
I'm her
exhibit.
assistant.
He's my assistant. We just opened our brand new exhibit. We had a members only reception and presentation, and it's in the Jess Dowd Memorial Room. Remember the former billiards and booze room for the guys. It's called Wine Our Story. So we're doing the series of different themes all around our story. History has been shared to us with a specific kind of story through textbooks, but there's so many stories that have yet to be shared from different people with different experiences and different cultures.
Right.
So it's
who lived in the same period of time, but
absolutely
their history is different.
Their history is different.
And we need to acknowledge that.
Exactly. We need to know. We need to have a real deep understanding of what that history is, because so much of history is just, well, we won't go into that too much. But anyways, it's important to hear the history from other other cultures and other people and communities. And as you said, during that same time frame, right? We need to hear from everybody.
Right.
But so right now we have a new exhibit. It's beautiful. We have an executive director, new executive director, Dr. Shelley Smith. She also grew up here in Napa. She went to Justin, Siena. She left for college. She got her bachelor's, master's, and then a doctorate in anthropology and archaeology with a special time in maritime archaeology. She's about this high, and she has more deep dive, freshwater deep water dives than any other woman in California.
Oh,
she has
wow.
seen more sunken shipwrecks, and she knows everything about that.
What
and
a
she knows
cool
everything about
occupation.
She is amazing and really interesting. If you haven't had her on your show, you want to have her on your
Oh,
show.
yes, I definitely
She's
will.
really fun. So yeah, so we have an exhibit, and then upstairs, Kelly O'Connor is our research librarian. You're welcome to come anytime, but if you have research that you're specifically looking into, call in advance. She can pull some items, some documents from the archives.
I didn't know that.
Mhm. It could be property, it could be a person, it could be a building. And it's ongoing, we're collecting information too.
Right.
The kind of the core mission of the Historical Society is continuing to preserve, educate, and the discovery of history here in Napa County. So we're always receiving information. We want to continue to learn, continue to share the learnings and findings, and preserve that one wonderful history that we have
That's
here.
great.
It's really
So
special.
important.
Let's go out front.
All right, let's do
Okay,
that.
let's do it.
Well, thank you very much, Liz, for just enlightening us so much. And here I am, a local and a member, but I didn't know a lot of what you just shared. So that's why we do these things, and we're doing these things just to put something positive. So
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for doing this. Everybody who's in Napa or you visit Napa, you can be really proud of this city. It has such a long legacy of true community coming together. As you'll see when you go inside the Historical Society, there's actually a timeline that goes back to 8000 BCE that connects our history here with world history and national history. And what you're going to see is just how amazing this community is and the city is, and the evolution that continues to happen that we're going through right now throughout the city, the ongoing needs and how we continue to address those needs, the resilience and perseverance, whether it's natural disasters, we've definitely had our share, and just just how we continue to move forward as a community.
despite all the obstacles.
Despite all the obstacles. So anyways, it's been such a pleasure and honor to be here today to share the Goodman Library with you. For more information on the Goodman Library, go to napahistory.org. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Dr. Shelley Smith, to Kelly O'Connor, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, thank you,
Great.
Lee.
All right. Thanks, Liz.
Bye.
See ya.